Okay, this is the first video for the Introduction to Engineering for Robotics. For this unit, I have three learning goals. I want you to be able to discuss various types of engineers. I want you to be able to explain what engineering is, and I want you to be able to describe the engineering design process. So, to get us started, what exactly is engineering? It's many things to many people, but basically we can define it as the application of practical and scientific knowledge to solve problems through the use of a methodical process. In simple terms, it's problem solving. So what an engineer would do, they would look at the world, they would find something that needs fixed or something that can be improved, and then they would try to solve that problem. They would try to find a way of maybe fixing it or just improving something. So maybe an engineer will create something physical to solve a problem, like a bridge or a dam or something like a building maybe. Maybe the engineer will try to improve the way of doing a task. So look at how do we accomplish something and try to find a better way of doing it. Maybe an engineer is trying to determine why something broke. You know, why did that bridge fall down? Why did that building collapse? So looking at things like that. So if we take a look at something simple, like an electrical power line, there's many things we have to look at. So first off, the structure. How do we build this structure so that the wind doesn't knock it down? How do we build the structure so that it's strong enough yet light enough that it doesn't sink into the ground? How do we attach the electric cables to the towers? So there's a lot that we can look at with the structure. Something else, the ground itself. How do we prepare the ground to support that structure? How do we ensure that the ground is, safe to support everything? So there's just a couple of things we can look at with an electrical power line. Another thing, the cables. So when we take a look at the cables, how do we make sure that they are strong enough that they don't snap and break? How do we make sure that the cables don't touch each other and short out? How do we make sure that the cables will carry electricity without losing too much of it to heat? So there's a lot that we can think of with something simple like an electric power line. So in order to design this electrical power line, some things we would need to know. Well, we would need to know electrical knowledge, obviously. We would have to know some civil engineering. The electrical knowledge would take care of things like the cables, the resistance in the cables, the voltage, currents. The civil engineering would take care of building the tower and preparing the ground. We would need to know some mechanical knowledge. That would be, what machines would we need to use to build this tower? Do we need to use a crane? Do we need to use some sort of lifting system? Basically, how do we put this thing together? And we need to know some materials. At what point will the steel bend? What bolts and fasteners do we need to attach it? Should we weld it together or should we bolt it together? That's something that a materials scientist or a materials engineer would take a look at. There are several different disciplines in engineering. And usually engineers, they focus on a specific skill set. There's a joke that a physicist is a mile long, an inch wide, where an engineer is a mile wide and an inch long. So typically engineers will focus on one thing and really understand it. Every aspect of it they'll try to understand. And they're just trying to solve problems in their individualized fields. There's almost as many fields of engineering as there are science inquiry. So some different types of engineers. There's chemical engineers, civil engineers, mechanical, electrical, computer. There's also fluid and aeronautical. And there are many, many more. I'm sure you can think of at least 5 more you could add to this list if you wanted to. One of the important things about engineering is that they need to learn to work in a team. There's no single superhuman out there who can do everything. So you have to be able to work in a team. So some things to consider when you work in a team. First off, to keep an open mind. You have ideas, but so do other people. Do not become overly attached to a single idea. It could be wrong. Do not become defensive over someone else's opinion. Everyone has opinions. It's good to argue. It's good to discuss, but you don't want to become defensive. You don't want to become, ready to fight over it. Stay positive. It's always better to be positive. Remember that engineering is based on logic, not feelings. You never want to make a decision based off of your feelings. It should always be based off of logic. Don't become offended if there's a disagreement. There will be disagreements, and that's okay. An unjustified opinion is not useful. In fact, all opinions are not useful. We need to base everything off of facts. And then finally, this is not rhetoric. It's engineering. So in rhetoric, the person who argues the best will be the most persuasive. Think of being like a lawyer. In engineering, the person who has the best argument will be the most persuasive. So the person who can provide the best facts and can really, show that what they do will work. So you always want to follow the facts supported by scientific proof and not someone's best guess. Now in robotics, there are many different types of engineering that goes into making a robot. We're going to focus mainly on robotics engineering, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and computer engineering. And really for this course, it's really going to be the mechanical side of it, the computer side of it, and I guess you could argue some of the robotics side of it as well. The electrical engineering, I'm just going to show you how to wire things up. We're not going to really get into a lot of detail on that. Now, since there are many different fields of knowledge, engineers often work together in design teams, which is what you'll be doing. And they'll be working with different people, using their talents to help the group as a whole. And again, this is what you will be doing. You will be a member of your robotics team to design and build a competition robot. All right, that concludes our very first video.